Let's go over what is best for Sorcerer Supreme, the Orb or the Tome. Something to bear in mind is that I might be a little bit biased in this one because I have geared my champion a certain way to be more stronger with one particular weapon to the other, but I will be talking about times that I have used both of them and which one I do prefer and why. So for those who don't know, back in about, 200 BR ago, whenever that was, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, I got the Orb for the first time. I wanted to give it a go. I did find even using some of the, benefits of my synergies, which are quite good. I've got a heavy attack. That was bad play there by me. You need to get in the capture circle, Rich. What are you playing at? But look, here's the thing. Damage output wise, and that was kind of cool, and that's where the Orb can come into its own. That targeted damage, and especially that enemy was too busy fighting against the Bodok, and I was just like hitting it in the back. So that meant that you could just do a load of damage. They're going to fly back, they're going to be low health, and they can be targeted and picked off very easily. The curse side of things does do good amount of damage there, and I could have played that a lot better, but do bear in mind this was, weeks ago. And I kind of like, as I've said, this is going to be about me talking about the Orb and the Tome. But the Orb side of things, I like the curse. I think it's cool. I think it can do good amounts of damage. And I believe that is a debuff effect of sorts and can be amplified. And there are going to be different ways using the Orb to amplify damage. For me personally, this is where the kind of problem with the SP3 comes into play. That if you're going up against a Hulk or any other champion that is able to break stuns, your SP3 could be absolutely worthless if it is broken in the chain. And for me, rapidly going from SP2, SP2, SP2 with the likes of the Tome seems to be more of a rapid damage take-up, and especially as my heavy attack is amplified by my weapon piece, that is something that you could look to say that the Orb may or may not have those unique stats. And this is why this game is very much kind of tailored to your own play style. But look here, I'm like ticking like 91 here, 98. Like it's not huge amounts of damage. And it's not as much damage as I normally do with my Tome. Okay, so here we go with the Orb. I like the Orb for this reason only, and that is that you can target specific champions. If you've got an SP3 up with Sorcerer with Orb, you can do some stuff. Unfortunately, there are times when there's Hulks, there's Captain Americas, that if they're on the team and they break your stun of they break your lock of the champion. I don't know what happened there, it lagged out. But if they break you doing that SP3, that SP3 is ultimately worthless, and your damage is not going to be as exceptional as it normally is. And it's debatable whether or not saying, right, well, having the Orb is all about doing higher damage. But if you're gearing weaponry a certain way, you can amplify other effects. For me, it's all about amplifying the heavy attack based on my type of synergy that I have for Sorcerer's Tome. And that's something I'll talk about in a second of how I kind of like build that. But the Tome is good. I feel that the curse of the SP2 is nice. It does some damage. It doesn't do huge amounts of damage, which we can see there. It's ticking a nice amount and kind of acts as something of a restriction for enemies, which is nice. But I just find that the shield is more of a lifesaver at times and can be very, very helpful to keep your team alive. And especially as you go up higher tiers, you find yourself fighting off against some very formidable people in this community, some amazing players. So trying to keep them alive is going to be a critical thing, very important, especially when it comes down to the last point. And you've got that little inner circle. You can sit out on the outside of the circle and put your shield on, shielding your allies as the cap goes even smaller. And that's very important when you're going up against the likes of like Hulk and Cap that do very kind of like stun or kind of like smackdowns there. But this still was a good fight and a very kind of last minute win. I'm not really used to these because usually it's a case like I'm very kind of up front and kind of damaging. It's also a case I damage a lot more with my Tome based on the SP2. The SP2 for me does more damage than it would do with the Curse. With the Curse as an SP2 doing very targeted, and that's only my kind of like thing there with the Orb. The SP2, unless you amplify the damage ability, and maybe that's the kind of the case. I just find that with throwing the SP2 with the Tome, I'm doing more of a spread of damage, and I can like throw that, and then I can move away, and I just find the movements a little bit better. Orb is very restrictive and specific to the champion you're fighting off against, and there's nothing against that. I just find the playstyle is not effective for my damage output. But having two sorcerers, one orb, one tome, can be an amazing combination and something to definitely shout about, and something that we've done before as a team with many different people of this community, and I've had a great time doing it. And normally it's kind of fun having a Hulk and then two sorcerers, but that can be bad if people aren't amazing with both champions to specifically target different ones, like going, okay, well, if you've got Spider-Man, you can be rooted in place. If they've got an enemy Hulk can, if you are restrictive and close to one another, then, you know, doing the SP1, doing the SP3, it's going to knock you down and cause you a load of grief. And that's the thing, I can't ever say Orb is bad, don't go for Orb. It's a case of going, right, well, build is important. My particular build, and as I've said before, is around heavy attack. Mine's got an improvement of heavy attack of 22, not substantial. And yes, I could be ramping up the gear, which I will be doing soon, but crate opening first, seeing what I get. If I get something better, then yes, I'd be foolish to spend now and go, right, I need some raw celestial remnant. Oh, I'm going to have to wait ages to get it. So I'm saving back that for that. But mine's all about power, health, heavy attack power, and special power while aura is active. So it's not overly the way that I want. I would like more kind of emphasis on some other kind of special improvements, maybe as well with other stats. But I don't want to lose that 22 heavy attack power, which is just like more important to me than ever. The health and the power itself, you know, is relatively important. But here, losing that to gain things like critical power and the extra stat is kind of the thing that I don't want to do just yet. But as I've said, the way that I like the Tome is based on the way that I play it and how I've got different kinds of attacks associated. And those attacks associated is ramping up heavy attack power. So I would need to kind of go with War Mage's Mantra. I'd need to improve or bring in something equal to in order to be specific to that. There are some other synergies out there that benefit the likes of doing heavy attack power, like here, the Realm Reaver set. So if I ever get Realm Reaver, then it would be something to kind of go, look, is this important that when it's lower to improve my heavy attack damage output? But War Mage's Mantra is kind of the most important thing of going like, right, well, that's going to help me out very early on. That's going to help me out very later on. So yeah, it's a difficult thing. It's a difficult juggling act. And whatever thing that you have, whatever gear that you've got, and whatever gear is building around doing more damage output, you're going to have to play to how you are playing, what weapon you have, and the gear that's bringing you the extra support. Look at those stats. Those stats are so important. And this is where my synergy Telecast plays in. I dash, I then get special power improvement that amplifies with my disciple stacking. So that's something as well to look out for, the disciple stacking, and look to vitally improve the way that I'm damage outputting. Because it's all about being mindful about synergies, as we've just said. You've got to look for, like, Disciple Supreme seems to be more of the damage output side of things, which I love about Sorcerer Supreme. If you want the more of the healer, the more of the support, then the Mystic Shelter seems to be that kind of thing with, well, you get like an extra, like while Divine Conduit is active, using a heavy attack grants nearby allies a shield for 5 seconds. That's amazingly helpful. While Divine Conduit is active, using special grant nearby allies a shield for 5 seconds. I've seen this in play and it is very, very good. But it's, for me, I'm all about more of a damage output Sorcerer Supreme. It just kind of confuses people as to like why I'm being quite aggressive. But as well, I'm able to shield and as well heal with my SP1 and SP3 respectively. Right, so now let's get to the final point. Which piece of weaponry do I think is better, the Orb or the Tome? Well, personally, I think it's the Tome. Yes, I'm being biased. I'm going to explain why. The Orb's SP3, which is great at target-based damage, allows you to be open to attack. If it's a case that you're targeting one enemy, then what are the other 2 enemies doing? You have to guarantee that when you're throwing that SP3, that there's no other enemies around you. If there's at least 1 to 2, then you cannot withstand the damage that's going to come towards you, and you're going to be taking damage whilst you're targeting, and you will more than likely break out of that or be broken out of that particular SP3. If players are smart, they'll be able to do certain things like stun you off of, say, the SP3 of Black Panther, the SP3 and SP1 of, or SP2 even, of Hulk and the Fist, and the same thing with Super Soldier with his arc shield. So that does leave you open to be attacked. Very early on, having an orb is fine, and especially as you're moving up the ranks. But do bear in mind, if, again, we're talking about the specific nature of you being attacked, you're also meant to be the support. So the support who's healing and as well meant to be helping out allies is, yes, targeting. And that's great, you're targeting. But at the same time, you are open to attack. With the Sorcerer Supreme using a Tome, the difference is that you're able to play around this idea of throw something, back off. Throw something, back off. Heavy attack is good range distance, and as well you can come in with the shield to shield your enemies and also keep that distance away from being hit by Hulks, jumping up into the air, the knockdown from Cap, because you are going to be targeted a lot. So you need that shield and you need that healing as well to be a support, not just an upfront aggressive champion. I say that because I'm kind of like very aggressive with my Sorcerer Supreme. But I understand where to create distance, where to create support, when to shield, when to heal, and when it's a good opportunity. So that's the crucial thing as well. You can also be helpful to your Bodok by shielding your Bodok as well if you come back and everyone's attacking the Bodok. So pop that shield and then allow yourself to shield that Bodok. So yes, there is a lot to this, and I'm not going to say that the orb is incredibly bad. If I was to kind of give it a score out of 10, I'd be going like, well, the orb is about like an 8 out of 10, whereas opposed to the Tome, which I believe is I personally feel is a 10 out of 10, based on the way that I can play it and a lot of other players play it as well. However, it is always important to have 2 on your team. If you are looking to run 1 orb, 1 Tome, it's a great combination. Look to do it. You'll have a blast because you're able to focus and as well use that that shielding. Even if you're knocked out of that SP3, you're not going to be targeted or not going to be kind of obliterated because you have that shield from your ally Sorcerer Supreme using the Tome. So there we go. That has really been the video there on which of the weaponry for Sorcerer Supreme I think is the best. Put in the comment section other champions you'd like me to deep dive and why, and I'll throw some footage up whilst I'm talking and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye bye for now.